Okay. So for news, we got a little bit of stuff here. We're gonna be discussing the Switch 2. Just now it's out. Now it's released. I don't have it. You don't have it.
Nope.
Somebody's
But a
got
lot
it.
of people do.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Somebody even got a truck full of Switch 2s. Um, so somebody even got
Wasn't
that.
me.
So not me though, but yeah, but somebody does. And yeah, so just discussing the release of it, how people are feeling about it, general reaction to it, what we've heard there about that, and maybe some people having some buyer's regret on it. And then also this trailer from this Chinese developer who also is behind Marvel Rivals there, or the
NetEase.
we say
The studio is at NetEase.
NetEase there is the studio. So let's take a look at this trailer there, and we'll give our thoughts on it.
大唐还在的时候，丝路上的灯火从西域一直亮到长安，能点亮天上的星河。
大唐离我们太远了，神佛还会庇佑河西吗？
我是认真决定的，我还是想再试一次。 今日，我们所流的血。
And this you said is based on real history a little bit. It's a little
Definitely based on. I don't know enough about the Tang Dynasty to say that it's like, hey, these are some like real historical figures being featured as characters or not. My knowledge just doesn't go too deep on this particular moment in history, but it's at least based on some real stuff for sure.
Okay.
是为了把大唐带回来。我们必须在破城之前把宁带出来。
And this is all in-game gameplay that we're looking at here.
Yeah, this looks like all gameplay here. And it's interesting because like there's some of these shots early on almost give maybe a little bit of an Assassin's Creed vibe with the unique historical setting, and then use especially that shot of like the market where there's all these people walking around. But I also noticed that you're really just seeing a straight line there, and most of the rest of this trailer is much more these like Uncharted style kind of like action set pieces. So who knows? This is only the reveal trailer of this game, but I'm getting the sense that this is a more linear action adventure sort of thing versus like an open world sort of experience.
Okay. That kind of feels very Assassin's Creed like where he's jumping.
There's a lot of that in Uncharted too.
Yeah.
Timing.
阿娘，阿娘，
阿爷，我将追随沙洲一举。
去长安，你这是让他们去送死！
And some of the combat here, that's interesting because it's these contextual environmental interactions that also very kind of remind me of the last Uncharted game or The Last of Us, where you're, depending on what you're next to when you're executing a certain move, it'll really incorporate the environment in. But the kind of sword play, which I guess we're not seeing a lot of just yet, that gives me a very kind of Ghost of Tsushima vibe where it feels like, you aren't able to take a lot of hits, the enemy isn't able to take a lot of hits, and it looks like it's a little more. You have to be a little more deliberate about the strikes that you're using. It doesn't look very button mashy. It looks very like kind of controlled and heavy.
这是让他们去送死！
I That feels kind of very Uncharted. Yeah, like
Yeah,
kind of action
especially how
stuff.
many times he falls down.
Yeah.
输赢成败，皆如沙上之塔，风来即散，为众生之苦，长漫于天地之间。回家吧，这一切毫无意义。
So it's like a father and son kind of team up a little bit with it.
That is definitely what we're seeing. Which is, especially with the cinematic presentation, you could even say there's a flavor of the recent God of War games maybe in there a little bit.
Okay.
天命所归，我才是大唐。
See a little bit more of the combat here.
到头来，
You compared it a little bit to maybe Ghost of Tsushima a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a deliberateness to it where it doesn't look like you're hitting the enemies very many times, but you have to time the strikes that you do have so that they're properly lethal. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here. Now, that can be a little hard to tell because obviously they're trying to make it look cinematic and really go for the presentation in a reveal trailer. So it's possible that like when you get your hands on it, it's not 100% exactly how it looks here. But if this is generally what the combat actually looks like when you're playing it, and I think it seems like it's pretty solidly built gameplay. You even see some menus getting opened up at times in the trailer. If it definitely to me has that kind of maybe slower paced combat, but that feels a lot more rewarding and skill based.
什么都不会改变。
没有我的帮助，你走不出这片沙漠。
That
Maybe.
also seems like kind of an Uncharted style console too.
Yeah, I was going. Yeah, very much. Yeah, puzzle sequence here. Yeah, very much. Yeah, like I said, Uncharted. Yeah. He does fall a lot. Damn, he is falling, man. Wow, he falls a lot.
如果神不
Saw
肯
Nathan
拯救
Drake's
我们的
record.
部族，
Like, somebody's got to
那
turn
就
that
让
down.
我来。
Which ironically would actually,
Oh yeah. I mean, some pretty epic sequences that you have here. Yeah, very much like you feel like you're in maybe an action movie, something like that. Like you're playing along with that. I think they have that.
oh yeah, very, very that kind of big cinematic presentation that you get from. I mean, not even just Uncharted, but a lot of like the Sony kind of first party exclusive titles in general. Honestly, kind of Borderlands, that kind of stuff.
嗯，
阿娘，等着我。是对信使，每个人都做好了有去无回的打算。
we sent 10 teams of messengers. Each and every one of them is prepared to die. Mm. It's a new meaning to kill the messenger there. Hmm, yeah. Let me go to the release date. Does it have a release date here?
I don't think it does.
Just says coming to PC and consoles. That's it. No coming maybe 2026, 2027, nothing like that. Just it's
I'm
coming.
willing to bet that's the 2027 game, just based on how little information there is.
Hmm. What do you think there, Sage? Highly
I mean,
anticipating this?
I'm definitely anticipating. I think this is a great reveal. I think there's a momentum building with like AAA Chinese produced video games, obviously, for Black Myth Wukong and the kind of big deal that was last year. Stuff like Tides of Annihilation is shaping up for next year. I don't know if how good it'll be, but Last Soul Aside is one people are really talking about. That's coming later this year. So you're starting to see, and this is kind of exactly what I predicted would happen when Black Myth Wukong was coming out, but you're really starting to see kind of the creation of an industry that just didn't really exist before there. It's like a triple A video game industry. And I say bring it, greater variety. It's another place for these projects to come from. It's so far seems like all the big ones have a lot of artistic vision and kind of originality to them. Their AAA industry hasn't existed for 30 years and sold out yet. So, it's just coming up. So we're getting good, thoughtful stuff right now. We'll see how that changes over the course of a decade or two. But for now, it seems like we're eating great.
Yeah. China is coming up. China supremacy may continue here. They got people with Marvel Rivals there. That's still pretty good. It's still pretty popular there. Black Myth Wukong, extremely popular. You have that. So
And this being the same studio, NetEase, that did Marvel Rivals or is continuing to do Marvel Rivals, that I think gives you a like with Black Myth Wukong when they first revealed it, it was like new studio, they've never made anything before. It looked cool, but how's it actually going to be? With this Marvel Rivals, like it's not for me, but Marvel Rivals is a competent, like fully produced, functional game. Now, whether you like it or not is really besides the point. It is well made for what it is trying to do. So with this, you can kind of go into and be like, hey, these people know how to make a game. Like there isn't like as much of a question mark as there was with Black Myth Wukong.
yeah. So here, this tells us a little bit about the story here. So it's a story set in the final years of the Tang Dynasty, which ruled Imperial China from 618 to 907. There, in Blood Message placed in control of a nameless messenger and his son to deliver a message that holds the fate of their war-torn homeland. Players will have to journey through desolate deserts and the vast wilderness of East and Central Asia. The trailer shows the messenger and his son fighting enemies in the desert, surviving avalanches, working with mysterious characters, and discovering ancient artifacts. It also shows the game's cinematic cutscenes, stealth, and survival mechanics, as well as the landscape players can expect to see. Hmm. Yeah. It says here this is from one of the lead producers on it and NetEase executive vice president, who says we are ushering players into a new generation of high adventure with Blood Message. I do definitely see a lot of high adventure with this.
Absolutely.
There. Yeah, very nice. I mean, it looks good. I mean, I want to see a little bit more from this to
For sure.
pique my interest. And obviously, this is a game that you can say it's probably not coming out anytime soon. Probably looking at 2027. Possibly is at the soonest that this game is possibly going to come out there. But it looks gorgeous.
I'd
I
be
mean,
shocked if it was any sooner than that.
yeah, it looks. I mean, gorgeous looking game. I mean, a lot of the in-game scenes look really great there. If that works out well, so yeah, that looks fantastic. So I'm gonna keep
And hey,
my eye
if
out.
that's just how good the early kind of reveal looks, I mean, imagine what the full product actually ends up being.
Mm, yeah, so I'm looking forward to this Blood Message. Very cool. All right, so some other news here about the Switch 2. The Switch 2 is finally out. People can play it right now, and you have some reviews out right now from people there. Have you heard any of the reviews? Seen any of the reviews?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of it. I've looked at. I haven't read like the full things too much. But I've definitely tried to, get a bit of a feel, and it seems like a lot of people are happy with it, but can't exactly say, "Oh, I'm super impressed at this." Either, you know, it's like it kind of has the like the mid-generation like PS4 Pro, PS5 Pro sort of hardware refresh sort of vibe going on. Like it feels less like a whole new thing and more like, well, here's a better version of the thing that you have.
Hmm. Yeah. So far I've seen people go like it is a improvement hardware wise of the first Switch there, graphically. Also games that you play, it loads up a lot faster. You do have that with it, which is very big. And the Switch was coming to almost coming close to a decade old. The first one there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of come
Did that
to
launch in 2016?
I believe it was. Let me double check there, but I believe it was. But yeah, so it is coming up over almost 10 years since the first one came out. So it does need a definite upgrade there. And then you had some people who went like, well, maybe you should have done just a Switch Pro possibly with that instead of just doing a new one.
Kind of seems like they did.
Yeah, I mean, basically they just did with the Switch 2 there. So the release date of this was the first one was originally March 2017. Um,
Okay.
you did had the old LED one, which was 2021. It's recent there. Um, and then we talked about this before when we saw the trailer for this about what the market is for the Switch 2. Let me see, trying to look at some sales numbers for this. But
Oh, it's the highest selling console or like launch of all time. Like it for all the skepticism or kind of like, is this really doing all that much? Its launch at least was ridiculous, like to a point that I don't even think people on the like optimistic side of predictions could have even expected.
Mm. So right here it says so the Switch 2 sets a record here, selling over 3.5 million units globally in the first 4 days. The new powerful console is the fastest selling Nintendo game system ever. Yeah, so you had that. And people were actually able to seems like there was no troubles actually getting a Switch 2. Like people actually go to the store and pick it up. There wasn't, any shortages there. People could go to Walmart, people could go to Target, people could go to GameStop. There. I did you see any videos people fist fighting over the Switch 2, anything like that? With people.
No, no, I mean, and I remember reading, more than once that Nintendo was in the lead up to the game to the console's launch. They were really, really working hard on like the size of their manufacturing production to try and avoid that because they don't. I mean, they don't want that, right? If there's people that are interested in buying a console from them, they don't want there to be a bunch of people with money that can't get one because they want, of course, they want that money. So they really beefed up the production lines to get ready for this. So it seems like that paid off.
Now you see people like camping out here. You had that when the announcement was long lines. I'm sorry, I'm not waiting. I don't care. I'm not doing that. I'll get it
No, I'm
eventually.
not.
But yeah, you had this guy. Damn, he was camped out since June 1st. This dude was camped out to get this Switch
Wow.
2. Wow. Him. I don't know. He looks like he could maybe be in high school, so maybe he can get away with it. So okay, so that
Sure. He's
now
got
if this
time.
was yeah, maybe if it was now it was a grown ass man, I don't that would have been a little bit different, but he can kind of get away with it.
I
And
mean,
yeah,
there's worse things you could do, though. I mean, there were people much older than him that were camping out for the Phantom Menace when it came out. So, just saying.
yeah. But I mean, yeah. But yeah, so people are actually available to get it, which also that helped it a lot. I think that's selling it, and let's talk about the overall market for it. So obviously, people who don't already have a Switch, this would be good to get if you don't already have one. Um, do you think also people go like, well, I want the latest, newest thing? That you also think that's a big market there? People who just want to upgrade.
I I think the market of people that just always got to have the newest thing is a little more niche, but I it does. I mean, consumerism has grown, so I do think it's a bigger share of people than it used to be. But honestly, I think another you know uh, cut of that pie chart is also I feel like there's always a surprising number of people who don't have a game system at all. Like no matter how many are sold and how big those numbers that we hear are, there's always turns out to be a lot of people that just don't have one at all. And they see this one. just whatever happens to be the newest one makes them go, you know what, I'm going to finally get into this. There's always more people like that out there too, and I'm sure that that also has an impact.
Mm, yeah. That's also another thing. Yeah, like you said, and people who have kids and maybe their kids, they say, "Hey, I want the newest latest things." That makes them go out and buy it there. And it's like, I don't want this old thing anymore. This Switch. Um, and just also the overall improvements with it as well. Um, much like with I think the first Switch, it doesn't have like this great, amazing, start out lineup of games here yet with it. Like you have
The
Mario Kart.
benefit it does have is a lot of the third party stuff that was a little too much for the first Switch to be able to run on its hardware is all available at launch on this. So let's just say you have been someone that's only had a Switch for the last 5, 6 years, a lot of the big games that were only on the PlayStation and Xbox are just kind of all available day one here. So it's like, no, there's not a big library because there's not a lot of stuff that's especially made for the Switch 2 yet. It's really just one game, really, as far as I'm aware. But if you're someone that's like sticking just to this one, just to the Nintendo series of consoles, or maybe again someone that could be new, you could say that's for them too. But there's like 5, 6 years worth of games that are all being dumped on the Switch 2 right away that aren't new, but there's always that possibility that to a certain chunk of this audience they're new.
Yeah, you mentioned that. So Street Fighter 6, which I wonder how that performs on the Switch 2. You have that. You have Split Fiction. You have Hogwarts Legacy as well there. You mentioned some other games. Also, I've heard the backwards compatibility with this is amazing. Like you have that also with the Switch 2. So if you were a person who maybe was like, okay, I've had this for a while. Breath of the Wild isn't as amazing anymore on this hardware. Now you can have the Switch 2 edition of it and it can be much better and it can be much more improved, maybe how it was supposed to be played in the first place. So you have that with it.
The drawback there, though, is that you have to pay the difference.
mm,
So if you have the $50, $60 Breath of the Wild for your Switch, and you want to get that Switch 2 version, right, and upgrade, you're going to need to pay the $30 to make up the difference to get the $80 version. So
mm,
that's the drawback there. Is some of these upgrades are overcharging, I think, by quite a lot for really not, yeah, they look better and they run better, but it's only such a big difference. I mean, a lot of the games that come out for, say we're on the PlayStation 4, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, near the end of generation type stuff. When all the PS5, all three of those, when the PS5 versions of those games came out on the next gen hardware, if you already owned a copy, it was $10 to get the PS5 version.
mm,
It's
yeah,
just $10, which there's something to be said for you already own it. You should just let it upgrade for free. Some games even will do that, but $10 I feel like isn't a huge asking price for that. 30
that's
just to
pretty crazy.
just to have it run a little better. That's kind of a lot.
Yeah, I'm looking at a little bit of here. So this is the Street Fighter 6 on Switch 2. I mean, this already looks. I mean, way better than what Mortal Kombat looked like on the Switch. I mean,
On the Switch One, oh well, that was just embarrassing. Yeah.
you had that. I mean, it led to some funny things though. I mean, with that. Let me see if I can pull up some stuff from that. You mentioned some of the pricing with this. So I guess that didn't really bother people. Switch 2 being close to $500. That
I mean, a lot of the like influencers on social media that you saw, in the gaming sphere that were specifically like, I'm not going to buy this. This is an outrageous price. They were all streaming Mario Kart on the launch day of the console. So it was a lot of people that were specifically saying, "Hey, I don't think I think this is ridiculous," or blah blah blah. You shouldn't buy this. A lot of them just bought it. So, you know,
yeah. So this was somebody playing Mortal Kombat 1. They compared it to the PS5 and just the comparisons there that you had. And just look at the boot up time with this.
you know,
You had that. And let me get into a little bit of the gameplay. This is pretty bad here. Like, look at the graphics on this. Like this isn't even good for PS1. I don't think here. And this isn't my internet. That's just the way they're
that's
doing it.
that's what the game looks
Yeah,
like.
that's just the way they're doing it. Just to make an emphasis on the comparison of that. But yeah, I mean, it's completely ugly looking there. But even with the improvements with the hardware, there are still some kind of going like it still feels like a generation behind. It still feels not as powerful as some other things there. You're not going to replace like a PS5 by getting a Switch 2. Um,
My understanding is it's about equal in power to a PS4 Pro,
mm,
which was that was the mid-generation kind of refresh for the PS4. And this first Switch was like only slightly more powerful than a PS3. So it is kind of a whole generation of a leap for what Nintendo consoles are doing. It's just that they're kind of basically the GameCube was the last time a Nintendo console was equal in power to the other systems at the same time.
yeah.
So it's kind of a consistent thing that they've always been doing. But the thing that has made up for that is the Wii would totally change their game and did this completely different thing. The Wii U, well, let's not talk about that one. But the Switch also then did a completely different type of thing and it changed the game, right? And so those consoles were very underpowered compared to, the PlayStations and Xboxes of the same moment, but they were creative and they experimented with these very different things. And so seeing, a Switch 2 where it's just iterating on the same idea and just making it a little bit better, you don't have that kind of wild swing to say, well, hey, you know what? It can't run as good as the PS5, but hey, it's doing this crazy other thing that no one even thought of except for them. And it you can't say that it's doing that this time. And I think that's a big reason why that point isn't necessarily brought up against the first Switch or the Wii as much. But they can't rely on that this time.
Yeah. And also, I think the thing with Nintendo, I mean, it's not really their success isn't reliant on being this huge innovator when it comes to as far as pushing technology its boundaries to say. I mean, they still do a lot of innovative things because like the Switch was innovative in the term of hey, you can it's a console, but it's also a handheld, and you can take it with you, and you can dock it, and all that stuff. Like that was very revolutionary in the way, and you see a lot of other people do that with that aspect there. And I mean, with a lot of games on the Switch that mainly people are playing, it's not really gonna be the most graphically, you know what I mean, challenging for something like this. Like, I think it still has that going for it.
They tend
You know
to innovate with the actual game mechanics more than with the power of the hardware.
yeah. I think that's where its kind of strength is, with that. And, you do have people, like I said, we talked about it, people wanna play Mario Kart, people wanna play those type of games, which is probably another Smash is gonna be coming down the line pretty
I'm
soon.
sure. I'm sure.
That's gonna be another thing there, and also when it comes to
$90 Smash.
90 maybe $100. Maybe they go like, "Hey, we're gonna"
It's gonna smash your wallet, is what it's gonna do.
Man, they're probably gonna charge you $10 for every extra character. They're probably gonna do that, 10 or 20. So yeah, so you got that. That's probably coming. Um, when do you think you might get a Switch 2?
It really depends. I mean, I mean, I want to play. I would like to play the Mario Kart that's out. I'd like to play the Donkey Kong game coming out in July. Um, and I'm sure they're going to continue to have things I'm interested in. But I didn't get at the first Switch. I didn't get for probably a good 2 or 3 years, I'd say, after it originally launched. One controller drift. That was like a big thing for the for those Joy-Con
Mm,
controllers. It was constantly having problems. And then also, you know, and again, this is a product of Nintendo having the less powerful hardware, but the Nintendo consoles typically they're getting by on what Nintendo is making for that system. And they're only the one company, for the most part, AAA game studios or sometimes even AA game studios they're not releasing their stuff on the Nintendo platform. And I think that's changing a bit now, but a lot of what's going to be available on here is stuff that's been available for a number of years on other things. And if you haven't been on those other systems, great, whole new bunch of stuff for you. But if you have been on them, it just is it's a very dry library for to start off with, you know, like PS5 launch, right? There was like two or three like major exclusives coming out on launch day. At the very least, I remember Spider-Man Miles Morales and the Demon Souls remake by Blue Point. Those are like two big in Demon Souls, especially like a meaty RPG, right, to spend your time with. It was like a lot of stuff, right? Like, and Returnal was like only a couple months in. Nintendo is like, we're launching with one game, and then there will be another game in July, and then that's it. That's all they've really announced as far as like first party stuff. And so I like I'm gonna want to get one eventually, but I just don't feel like the number of games and the amount of time I'd actually be using it is going to be worth it for a little while. I think they always to me need a little bit of time to sort of build things up before I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna dive in.
Mm. And at what price point would you say?
Um, hmm, uh, I mean, I don't. I feel like the 450 is that I feel like that's reasonable if it's got a lot of stuff on it. Like if there's a bunch of things that I'm like, oh, I'll pick this up and this up and this up and I'll play this and you know they'll really get my use out of it. I think 450 is a pretty good price. I think that's the version that doesn't come with Mario Kart. I mean, even I guess the 500 I might be willing to do because then you can get Mario Kart for 50 instead of $90.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess it's just going to really be a matter of like how much time do I think I'm really going to realistically get out of this? And right now, to me, it looks like I get 20 hours out of it, then set it on the shelf and go back to my PlayStation.
Yeah.
So
Hey, how's it going there, Jack? He said 90. Well, I mean, hey, you might be paying 90 for Mario Kart World if you do that. If you
that's
don't get
how
the
much it
bundle.
costs. Yeah, if you get the bundle, the game's only 50, but if you buy the game standalone physical copy, that is $90. Which
Yeah.
is that's the other thing is like another reason I don't necessarily want to pick up the system right away. And even though obviously, you know, my individual purchase is only going to make such a big difference, but I don't super want to reward Nintendo for these price increases. Obviously, people already have, and I have no control over that. But like, it makes me honestly, you know, I don't think I've ever said this before. It makes me want to buy a used system at GameStop so Nintendo doesn't get the money. Honestly, it actually does. Um, and I think that I don't think I've ever said that before.
Yeah. Well, I think he's also including tax. He said, yeah, 80, but also, yeah,
Oh no no
tax.
no no! It's digital $79.99
Uh,
without tax. Physical in the like a physical copy in a store $89.99. That's
oh,
not
wow.
counting tax.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn. Okay, damn. Oh, wow.
So 80 digital, 90 physical, and then yeah, that's add tax on top of that.
Mm, okay, shit. All right. There you go. And you know, no, I mean, even Black Friday, Nintendo doesn't do a whole lot of deals with the newer games. You gotta,
Yeah, they're like $60 games. You might get them for 40. That's like the best sale you're probably going to get. So
yeah,
they're $80 games you might get for 60.
yeah, might do that. I think what's I'm hesitant about is, I mean, I don't really play the Switch I have now. I have all these games for the Switch, and
Yeah.
I don't really play it. I mean, I take it with me on trips when I'm on the plane or waiting for a plane, or and I think, okay, well, I'll play it, maybe then, but I usually end up just watching a movie or going to sleep or something like that. And I just don't play it then. And yeah, so I just don't really see the need to jump to get a new console when I know I'm not really going to be playing it that heavy, and I know that a lot of the games on there, it's like, okay, I can get them probably elsewhere for cheaper. And then, it's going to be better to look at like on the console. I have a PS5, I have a PC as well. So I just don't see the need to kind of just jump out and get a Switch 2 for that. But yeah, it'd be fun to play Mario Kart. I don't know, maybe when a new Smash comes out, maybe that will inspire me to just grab it. Especially if they do a bundle and they do it for
Yeah.
500. Yeah, I'll probably do
I
it.
think that's what I waited for with the first Switch. Is I'm pretty sure it was when Smash came out. I was like, all right, now I'm getting one.
Yeah. So maybe when that kind of happens. But other than that, I mean, hey, it's good things. I mean, hey, it's improved there. Technology wise, seems like it's made some improvements there. The Joy Cons, but you bring up the drift aspect. They didn't know
Yeah,
that coming out that it was gonna have this drift with
right.
So also you gotta anticipate some things kinda maybe happening with the consoles that kinda run it people issues that people run into that's unforeseen that may
Yeah.
also be a thing like the drift. I hope it doesn't happen with these things because
There's always some unpredictable issue. I mean, even if it only affects a minority of customers or models that went out, there's going to be something. And if you wait, you're so much less likely to deal with that. I mean, it's the problem with being an early adopter of any technology, right? Like regardless of what it is, that's always a risk you're going to run.
yeah. So, and I also like the fact the Joy Cons are magnetic, so because I did have issues with it constantly like sliding off, and I had to reconnect them and do all that. So that seems like it's more sturdier there, with you're able to kind of do that with the magnetic ones instead of that slide on and off there. With that, yeah. So Switch 2. Those are some of my thoughts on it there. But
Unless
hey,
Nintendo wants to send us some Switch 2s for the show, in which case, I'll play it a whole bunch.
yeah. I don't think even reviewers got it early. I think they still had to like wait till they
Okay.
got sent it, so they didn't even get it early. But
Well, I know I saw some people that they bought a Switch 2 and then it showed up in the mail like a couple of days early. So they set it up, but the console wouldn't work without a day one patch that
mm,
Nintendo was sending out, right? So in theory, they could even turn your system off if they don't like it.
damn, that much power, they can just shut your lights off just like that, huh? It's just like, oh, okay. Give our system a bad review and shut your shit on. You think, yeah, okay. Oh well, there you go. So that was our news there.